And in this case, I believe snapping to face will not be very useful because there are faces on places that are not relevant for this. I'll have to snap from the inside. You see, it's, I don't even know if that works. So let's just do a little more work on here. Let's see. Yes, what I was looking for is the wireframe. Does this object shows wireframe? Yes, it does. Yeah, so this helps a little. Unfortunately, I've just... Okay, so I think this is good enough. So yes, it will be kinda invading the other side, but then maybe I can scale on the x-axis, then move it like that. Yes, this is looking... This is good. This is good enough. So, and also the size here is good. Let's make sure it's centered. So let's go to selection to cursor. That's right. Okay, so this I'll rename that as eye surface. And then I'm gonna make a duplicate. And let's see where it is in my... Here. So I have two of them, and this one I'll keep as a backup file that I don't need anymore. Well, let's put it here just for this tutorial. And so this one I should parent it, I guess, to the armature object. Yes, okay, so this is important. So I should parent this to the head bone. So I select the head bone, then I select this object, then shift select here. So let's see if it is following. Yes, so you see it's following correctly. And I need the conversion, still a NURBS curve object, right? Because otherwise it would not hold the UV unwrapping because it doesn't contain mesh. It's not a mesh object. Okay, so let me just rename this like this so it goes up. Here we go. So now I can convert this to the mesh here. So now when I go on edit mode, you see how curvy are this mesh. It's very beautiful. And there's not a single modifier here in this mesh object, so no subdivision, subsurface modifier, nothing. It's just very well polished mesh made out from originally NURBS curve edition. So I could here, of course, have later to make some transformations, like I could use proportional editing or even the smooth tool here and get back some cool shapes. But for me, if possible, I'd like to preserve this original as best as possible. So that's why it's always good to have a backup of that. Let's first make sure the cursor in the origin, then I will select the cursor, and then just making sure everything is done, apply all transformations, and then what I want to do, as I usually do, is locking all the transformations. And because of course this mesh object is still not yet symmetrized, let's make this right now. So a mirror on the x-axis. Let's just apply this, because I cannot do this rig, at least I haven't found a way to do this rig with a preserved mirror modifier, because then what happens is, because the mesh object has got the same vertex data or information here, it will just get symmetrized to the other ghost mirror side. So now let's start creating a material for this eye surface mesh object. So first let me change the viewport display color for something that will make a difference, that will be easier to spot. And then we need to go to the shader editor. I'm gonna split this and then split again here, and I'll put here the UV editor that I'm not sure I'm gonna use right now, and here for the shader editor here. So currently this is the material output. It's for all, so EV and cycles. I'll keep it all. So this is a shader BSDF, so I don't want this. So I need a texture node that would be gradient texture, and let me just change here. Already what we are seeing, we see nothing, of course. And so now we go spherical on the gradient texture, and we already see that something is happening, even though I haven't UV unwrapped these meshes. Now let's get the nodes that will help us map these UVs. So it is input texture coordinate, so this is the most important one, at least the starting, so this is the starting one. Okay, we see already something is happening here. We need the color ramp so that we see better the sharpness, and then we need the constant type interpolation between color. Okay, so then we make this the inverse. The white is like the blank part of the eye, the white part of the eye, and then this is the, you see, this would be the pupils, and then we add another color here that I will make something different here this time. Let's make something like that. And of course this is, even though these are root transformation, let's keep it like that for now, because remember I want to make the basest, the rootest transformations on the UV editor. So the other node that I need here is the mapping one. So this goes to vector. And here, as we can see, there are some things that are not very symmetrical. Yes, actually this is because of my model that has some issues, because all the rest looks perfectly good. It's just apparently it is not. Okay, so this is working. This time for some reason I didn't have to make any adjustments here. And of course it will be good if I could yes, for some reason making adjustments here is not a bad idea. So I'll keep it like that, because then I'll set the rest here. And I guess this is done for the shader editor. So now maybe we could address the UV unwrapping, but as you can see, these are stacking exactly on the same spot. This might be good, but then I guess it won't work for the UV warp modifier that use the bones. So let's go for the bones now. Tab into edit mode for the bones. So this is the head bone. I don't need it right now. This is not the head bone, this is... It's good that I have at least one layer showing so that I can orient myself. So since I'm gonna parent to the head, I'll leave the head bone here. So I deselect, let's add a new bone here in the center. I'll select this bone here, so I don't want this selection. So let's drag it to the front side here. I want it to be snapping to the grid. That will make things more organized. And so, yes, even though it's not exactly where I would like in the grid, yes, this might work. Then I'm gonna make it this size, at least for now. And so this will be renamed as the ice track. So control ice track. Then just show it, and I don't need the rest. Duplicate this to the size. This I'll call pupil base left. And then I'll duplicate again. I'll just put to the side so that will be easier to manipulate then. Though this one, pupil control left. And then I'll just make them slightly differentiated in size. So that they have different scales from the original one, the ice track one. Now I think I can reposition these on the same position, same location. They are perfectly aligned, although let's see, the z-axis pointing forwards. Yes, this is good enough. Then I'll take those two and I'll just symmetrize here. This is good enough. Then let's start the parenting here. I just hate stacking bones in the same place. Maybe it could be done if I just rotate these two, but I don't care now. Let's make this parenting. Then let's just hide this. No, actually, before I do anything, let's put this into this layer. And I'll call it ice track, just for the sake of this tutorial. So yes, now I need to show the head. I just want to have the head bone showing here, and so I'll select, I can hide this because they won't be on my way. Then I select this and this, all those ones, and parent to the head bone, which is on another layer. So now what I've got, if I unhide this, is this sort of parenting. We've already seen that, not so confusing, right? So the bones are ready. Now we just need to create the UV warp modifiers. And of course, if you're wondering, this is bone management add-on. It's free, you can find it in the internet. So if I have here, you see I have many rigging or animation add-ons, and one of them is Bone Manager. So it's very useful because very practical, because if we don't have it, you'll have every time to go back to the Object Data Properties tab for the armature object and then get the skeleton panel and manage bone layers here. And it's good, but it's much better to have actually a tab here in the sidebar. It's on Gumroad's site, so we can still contribute. Okay, it could be that my bones are not very well positioned here. So let me just do something like this. I believe this could be relevant. I think this won't make much difference actually, but after, it's good to maintain the centralization for the starting position of the bones. This is usually important because when you start to moving on pose mode, it should be fairly relevant to have more matching distance between those bones between themselves, and actual distance, real distance between the texture of the pupils. So now comes the time for adding the UV warp modifiers. So I'm starting with the left bone. Even I'm not gonna UV unwrap or anything like that. Let's see what will happen when I do the UV warp modifier. I cannot use targets for this, unfortunately. So for example, if I pick that bone and I want to and select here and then add the UV warp, like, it doesn't target. Okay, so here the bones that I need are the pupil base, because it's the bone from, and this is the pupil control for the left side.